Jó reggelt, Magyarország! Jó reggelt, patriota társaim! Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let me say what an honor and privilege is to speak to you here today in Budapest. CPACHungary is not just another political gathering. Since its first event in 2022, it has grown into a meeting point for a global revival. A global revival rooted in sovereignty, freedom, prosperity, security, and the renaissance of the Western civilization of both sides of the Atlantic. The theme of this year's conference, The Age of Patriots, couldn't be more timely. We are standing at the historic crossroads in a time marked by deep divisions and mounting tensions. The liberal global order is under strain. The elites who built and profited from this system now look on in disbelief, confusion, and anger at its falls apart. But they have only themselves to blame. They betrayed the citizens who trusted them. They turned their backs on the voters who put them in office. They eroded the very foundation that once made Europe proud, strong, and great. They wanted to replace the love of country with hollow globalism, bury common sense under endless layers of bureaucracy, replace centuries of tradition with social engineering, substitute natural population growth with mass migration, sacrifice prosperity for green ideology, limit free speech and freedom of information. It is ironic, since the European Union started as a noble vision, a promise of freedom, peace, and prosperity through cooperation among sovereign nations. It stood for free movement, open markets, and mutual respect. A union that celebrated the diversity of histories, languages, and cultures. A Europe that served its people, not ruled over them. Instead of partnership of free nations, the EU is becoming a machinery of centralization. Today, Brussels no longer listens. It commands. It doesn't reflect the will of nations. It overrides it. Instead of protecting freedom, the European institutions are regulating it out of existence. Instead of empowering citizens, they empower unelected bureaucrats and activist networks. The more diverse Europe becomes in voices, cultures, and opinion, the more the Commission strives to crush that diversity into the single ideological mold. National sovereignty is not seen as a virtue to protect, but as an obstacle to overcome. Democratic disagreement is slandered as populist or extremist. The message is clear: obey or be punished, and isolated. This is technocracy without a soul. Europe doesn't lack treaties, reports, or regulations. It lacks leadership. It lacks vision. It lacks courage. Let me give you 3 examples to illustrate what Europe has become. First, the Digital Service Act. Under the guise of fighting disinformation, it brings censorship in through the back door. Platforms are pressured to remove not just illegal content, but what Brussels calls harmful, vague, subjective terms that can mean anything and nothing. Under this law, dissent can become punishable offense. I never thought I would see the day when people in Europe are being investigated or even jailed for opinions expressed online. This isn't about safety, it's about silencing. Second, the Green Deal. What began as an environmental effort has morphed into top-down social experiment. Emissions rule that burden industry, small businesses, and even ordinary citizens and families. Bans that cripple the car industry, policies that hurt ordinary people while pretending to save the planet. While China expands its coal and nuclear power plants, we make ourselves poorer, imagining others will follow. This is not sustainability, it's economic self-sabotage, dressed up as an environmental virtue. Third, the Migration Pact. Solidarity, they call it, but real solidarity is voluntary. This is coercion. The pact imposes migrant quotas and fines on states that refuse to comply. It strips nations of the right to control their own borders. A loss of sovereignty, it treats migration not as a policy to be managed, but as a force to be accepted. But uncontrolled migration is not compassion, it's negligence. It undermines cohesion, public safety, and national identity. All of these points to deeper problem. The elites in Brussels have replaced merit with ideology. They have substituted freedom with surveillance. They have abandoned culture in favor of identity politics. They walk of value but undermine the very foundation of our civilization: family, community, tradition, faith. They no longer defend our heritage. They apologize for it. Instead of protecting Europe, they deconstruct it. This is why we need a renaissance, not just of policy, but of principle. We need a European Union that returns to its roots, a community of nations, not a supranational entity. A union that respects diversity rather than erasing it. A union where freedom means choice in markets, in speech, in daily life. We must reclaim Europe, not from outsiders, but from insiders who have forgotten that Europe is. Europe is not Brussels. It is Prague, Warsaw, Budapest, Rome, Paris, Madrid. It is the voices of citizens who want to be heard. It is the right of nations to govern themselves. It is the right of families to raise children without ideological interference. It is the right of individuals to speak, worship, and live without fear of punishment for having the wrong opinions. The age of patriots has begun, not because we want to divide Europe, but because we want to save it. We want a Europe where cooperation is voluntary, where leadership means accountability, where progress is grounded in reality, not ideological zealotry. Ladies and gentlemen, the tide is turning. We must stand firm. The challenges are great. But the cause is greater. It is the cause of freedom, of sovereignty, of family, of our future. So let us stand together as patriots. Let us fight for Europe our children deserve. And let us never forget a Europe that forgets its people is a Europe without future. Thank you.